Here we have a sketch of a new deck. See? New deck. If I were to ask you, how many hours would it take for you to make construction drawings for this new deck? What would you say? When we look at this sketch, our minds tend to break it down into simple shapes, and we think, there's really not much at all here. Look, we have a rectangle here, and then we have some smaller rectangles. You got one there, and there you go. That shouldn't really take long at all. Then all you have to do is put it on a sheet, you throw a few dimensions on it, and you're good. So what's that complicated about it? Should take like 4 hours or so. Try 56 hours. So why did it take so long? Something we need to understand about decks. Most of your materials are exposed, and for this reason, careful attention needs to be given to the placement of materials and fasteners. Look closely at this corner. Decking material comes in a particular width, and it needs to be laid out according to that width and according to the recommended spacing. You can't just throw a frame together and throw on your decking material and start shaving it down as you start running out of space. Everything is exposed, so everything needs to be carefully laid out from the finished materials first and then working back to your structure. 6 steps were needed to make construction drawings for this deck. The first item we needed is an accurate site measurement. I needed to get proper plan with the foundation, siding offset, and the proper elevation with the existing grade and its relation to the siding and windows and doors. Now this site visit was easy. It only took 3 hours. There was no bushes, rocks, trees, or property line setback issues involved. If there were, I would have had to have measured around all of this stuff, and it would have taken a lot more time. The second item needed is to establish the type of decking material you're going to use. As I stated earlier, some decking material does not trim well, so you need to lay out your finished surfaces first and then build the framing underneath it, as stated earlier. The third item is figuring out the loads, which in this case includes snow loads. The loads on the deck need to be calculated first. This is needed to establish the type of foundation and footings needed to hold this thing up. This requires structural calculations and product research. As you can see here, once I've calculated the load, then I could figure out how many footings. In this case, the Bigfoot system, I needed 14 Bigfoot with 24-inch bases to be able to distribute the max snow load to the ground. The fourth step is to connect our foundation footings to the deck material. Here you can see some of the foundation footings. Then you have to build a framework on top of those footings, calculating the loads as you're going along so that it can support your finished deck system, which you have already laid out first. Just for the record, for this project, there were 13 structural load calculations. All this takes time. The fifth step is fasteners and connections. I have this bench here hanging off in outer space here. How's it going to be connected? Are we going to have some sort of bracket in here? Well, I don't want a bracket. We've got this special trim piece going around. So we can come in from the backside and screw into it with some sort of long lag bolt. But then, how are you going to screw into it? Stuff like this causes the designer to have to stop and scratch his head and wonder, well, how's a guy in the field actually going to put this together? Do I have to redesign it? All of this head scratching burns up time. The sixth item is annotate and dimension. You can't build it without these. You have all your notes, your materials, all the research that you did. That needs to be transferred over to the drawings. Like this detail here. This is what you start with just the detail. Then you add all your annotations and dimensions. It's like that for every image. So in the end, this project ended up taking 4 sheets. So all of this takes time. Now granted, your mileage may vary. The point is, our minds have a way of simplifying tasks that are set before us. If this is true of us, the designer, how about the client who may have little or no experience in construction? So this video example of the deck is just to get our minds thinking beyond the simple and to maybe help us to be able to explain to ourselves and to others why it takes so long.